Hi, folks in Jackson. This is Darwin Gross. I'm up in the high mountains outside of Denver right now. I'm sure it's nice and warm where you're at. It's still freezing up here. Um, I wish I could be there to kind of help with some of the instruction, but um, it sounds like things are going pretty well. Andrew asked me to do a little video shoot here showing a particular thing to do in Adobe Audition, which is what we call conforming files. Conforming files means making the files so that they all work in a standard way and will interact with the software appropriately. So I am going to start off by working with Audition. Get Audition booted up here. Let me resize it so that it fits in my work area. There we go. Now, before we get started, we're going to do a little bit of setup. And the main thing we want to do is go into Audition in the preferences for media and disk cache and select this media disk cache. The bottom entry says save peak files. That's a convenience for audio editors to be able to more quickly open up files, but it really pollutes the folder system. So we want to turn that off and then hit OK. Once that's done, we're ready to kind of pursue some activities. And the way we're going to start out is we're going to start out by going into the window menu and select Batch Process. Batch Process brings up this little window that says drag and drop files from the file panel. Well, what we can also do is just drag and drop files from our audio repository, and so that's exactly what I'm going to do. When I do it, you can see it loads it all up in a batch area. It also loads it all up in my files area. We're doing this just as a convenience because we have a little bit more setup to do. I'm going to close the batch process window. I'm going to select one of my files here. I'm going to select Blackbird. Double click and you can see it's a stereo file. It's got some stuff here, but the fact of the matter is this isn't exactly what we want. We really need to make this a monophonic file, and we need to make sure that it's set up properly for the rest of the playing systems. So what we're going to do is we're going to set up a couple of what they call preset favorites. So in one case, we're going to go into Convert Sample Type from the Edit menu. And basically, the options we want to set, sample rate should be at 44/100. Channel should be mono. And if you open up the advanced settings, it should be a 50-50 mix. And then bit depth, and this is very important, needs to be set to 16. Once we do that, we're going to save this as a preset. So I'm going to click on this preset button, and I'm going to call it make 44.1 slash mono slash 16. Just as a reminder of what this preset does. And I'm also going to make it a favorite. And when I name the favorite, I'll just call it MCM convert. There we go, and I hit OK. And what it does is on this file, it grinds through and makes it a mono file. Now, did we have to do that? No, we really just mainly needed to save that preset. The other thing that I want to do is I will want to do what's called normalizing. Normalizing basically maximizes the volume without distorting anything. And when you do that, you see it kind of like increases the volume of everything. Now, that's great, and we did that against this one file, but we don't want to manually do that. So we're going to take advantage of this batch process system. But in order to do that, what I want to do, batch processes only work on favorites. So what I actually have to do is I have to make a favorite that does both my sample setting and my normalization. So I'm going to go into favorites and I'm going to say start recording a favorite. And it gives me this little notification that whatever I'm doing. That's fine. I hit OK. And then I go in and I say, all right, the first thing I want to do is go into the edit menu, convert sample type, select my make 44.1 option that I just created and hit OK. And then I go into my favorites menu, select normalize to negative 0.1 dB, let it do that. And that combination of those two things is conforming the waveform. So now I'm going to say, all right, I'm done recording that favorite. It asks me what I want to call it, and I'm going to call it MCM space conform. Now, if I open my batch window, there's all of my files, and it says, hey, what favorite do you want to use? Well, I don't want to normalize, I want to actually use the MCM conform. Now, it'll actually do this function against every file in this list. But there's one more detail. If we go into export settings, we have the ability to have it so that it renames files, does a bunch of other stuff. The main thing you want to do is you want to go into the location area and say that it's going to save it in the same place that the source file is located, and that we want to overwrite any existing files. We want to make sure the format is a WAV file. And then on these bottom three checkboxes, we want to say remove the file from the panels upon completion. Yes. Yes to close files upon completion. And no to include markers and other metadata. That's going to make it so that this pretty much completely replaces all the stuff that all of the files that we put in there. So now if I hit run, you'll see that it kind of burns through these files, does all of that processing, and basically clears them out of the system. Now I'm going to get out of Audition, and if I look here, I see, okay, it made WAV files for everything. In this case, I started with an AIFF file. It made a new WAV file for it, so I can get rid of the old AIFF. But now all of these WAV files are in exactly the right format for use in the pylon editors, in all of our tester systems, and eventually for the speaker systems that'll be running out in the garden. So now you might say, wow, that was a lot of stuff to do. Do I have to do that every time? The fact of the matter is, no. If we go in and look, we'll see that under our batch process, MCM conform is still there. If I add some files to the batch process, I'll just take a couple of these. If I go look at my export settings, they're all the way I left them after the last run. So realistically, now I can just take files, dump them into the batch processor, select MCM conform, hit run, and it'll just work. And you'll notice I ran that again on the same files. The nice thing is that this conform function doesn't actually redo any of the work. So once you've conformed it, if you conform it again, nothing bad will happen. But that's just a really good way to make sure that you're creating files that are going to be usable by all of the systems that we've created. I hope that helps. If you have any questions, feel free to shoot me an email or ask Andrew to ask me some questions. I'm glad to help. Thanks.